Hello and welcome to my Crusader Kings 3 lifestyle trait tier list. I'm going to be ranking all of these lifestyle traits, going through each of them in order that you see here. I'm using these as a representation of the entire tree as a whole, not of this individual trait specifically at the bottom of the tree, so keep that in mind. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between these two so that we can have a look at what's actually in each of these trees as I go through them. I apologize for the light and the dark. I like to use dark mode, but sometimes I just can't get dark mode to work. I can't find it on Paradox Wiki's website. One of the things that I want to say before I get into this is that obviously that people enjoy playing the game different ways. If you enjoy a lifestyle that I happen to rank low, keep enjoying it. That doesn't really matter. Everyone plays the game in their own different way. This is just my personal opinion. So without further ado, I'm going to get started by jumping into the Diplomat here. The Diplomat trait. This is probably, in my opinion, the strongest in the Diplomacy tree. It's the one that I feel I go for the most, more so than August or Family Hierarch. I think that it's a really, really strong lifestyle tree that often gets underutilized. Whenever I see these polls on Reddit or wherever of what your favorite or what your most played lifestyle is, Diplomacy always seems to be the lowest one. Whereas for me, I think it's probably not the most played, but maybe the third or somewhere in the middle. Diplomat specifically, I think is very, very strong. It's excellent in doing something that a lot of people underrate in this game, which is get people to like you more. The Diplomat trait itself gives you 20 opinion from all independent rulers, and then 3 diplomacy, and every point of diplomacy you get gives you 1 general opinion overall. That's 1 opinion from every character in the game. So independent ruler doesn't count towards your vassals or your co-vassals or your liege or anything like that, but every independent ruler in the game, plus 3 diplomacy. When you're going down the tree, you also get 15 more independent ruler opinion from defensive negotiations, the 15 more from your fellow vassals as well. So you really get a ton of, I don't know what you want to call it, a ton of opinion from other people from playing this tree, which makes sense since you're a diplomat. You also get 5 more diplomacy if you're making full use of the embassy's trait. By artifact claim, not super useful. The increased fabricate claim on county is nice. No prestige penalty for breaking truces, not super great, but the prestige penalty is not really what you're, it's not really the downside of breaking truces. It's the whole people are going to hate you if you break truces. Shorter truces though is kind of nice. You can learn an extra language scheme, so you can sway someone and learn a language at the same time, or learn language and seduce someone at the same time. Doubling the opinion from send gift is really, really useful, especially when you take over as a new ruler. This is the first point that you can put into this tree. You can unlock it right away. Send some gifts, make your vassals like you, and make them a lot less likely to join factions against you. Cheaper title creation cost is always nice. The Decal Conquest and Vassalize Casus Belli are not generally ones that I'm using super often. They tend to be kind of expensive in terms of the prestige that you pay for them. But overall, this tree is quite strong. My favorite of the diplomacy trees for sure. I'm going to put this in A tier. A lot of people rank this lower. It's just one that I play through quite a bit and I think is quite strong and I think is a little bit underrated. But I enjoy it quite a bit. August is a very situational tree. The August trait itself gives you 1 monthly prestige, 1 martial, and 2 diplomacy. You get extra diplomacy for level of fame. It doubles the effect of your level of fame. This commission epic I used to feel was a lot better. I don't like it so much anymore. It never seems to give me something that good. Whereas before I feel like it used to be a really good source of getting renown, when renown was a lot harder to get in previous patches, but Renown is a lot more common now, so I feel like this is a lot less valuable. True Ruler is probably like the best overall part of this when you're playing a king and an emperor and you're trying to get you know, these little independent counts and dukes to accept becoming your vassals. This is really, really useful. These, well, 3 of these top 4 just really give you more prestige. Prestige from your dread, from your knights, and from your powerful vassals that you have on the council. Plus you sway a little bit faster. This is just very situational, this tree. If you're playing tribal, it's one of the best. It's like an S tier for sure if you're playing tribal. I almost always go August if I'm playing tribal. But if you're not playing tribal, then the usefulness of it drops significantly. There's still sometimes where I'll go and get this, but generally it's just if I'm trying to get True Ruler to make people accept vassalization and I don't even end up finishing the tree. So with that situationalness in mind, I think that this, I can't really put this above C. For me personally, I just don't play tribal very often. If you play tribal a lot, then you're obviously going to like this a lot more. But for me, it's just not that great. It's very situational. Family Hierarch. The Family Hierarch, Patriarch, Matriarch itself is a pretty weak one. It gives you some extra fertility. House opinion and close family opinion are generally not that useful because generally like your family is going to like you anyways. Plus by the time you click through this entire tree to get Matriarch or Patriarch, you're probably already going to have a few kids, and the fertility, you know, you might be getting this when you're like 40 years old. So like this trait itself I think really needs to be buffed. The actual tree can be a little underwhelming. I really liked getting Room to Rule. Anytime I go into the diplomacy lifestyle, I generally will put 1 point into this almost no matter what. Beyond that, a lot of these higher up ones are kind of useful, or kind of useless I should say rather. Situationally useful. Befriend is nice, but you can get this through other ways as well. The ritualized friendship cultural tradition, which is quite common in Iberia, for example. And then if you do this, you want to get 5 friends by the time you get down here, because eventually your friends up to 5 are going to be giving you 2 random skill points each. And they're also going to give you less stress gain, which is nice. But you have to click through Thicker Than Water, Heart of the Family, and Flatterer, none of which are really all that useful. Again, the close family opinion, your family is going to like you anyways. Personal scheme success chance against family members, you know, your scheme success chances are already going to be high against family members. These really just don't matter too much. So you have to waste a lot of kind of like useless perks in order to get to like the meat of this tree. And then when you get down to the bottom, it's not even good. So like the good part of this tree is this. It's that you can get 10 skill points from Friendly Council as long as you have 5 friends, and then you can get 5 from having 5 children. So being able to get 15 skill points is really nice. And then you can get 1 to 3 skill points on each of your children as well. That's generally the reason why you're going in this tree. But just that alone doesn't really make it good enough to put anywhere above D. It's just one of the weakest trees. It needs some love. It needs some updates, I think. If the extra fertility came earlier, you know, Family Hierarch seems like something that really should be giving you fertility, and getting it at the end of the tree instead of near the beginning just seems like poor design to me. So I feel like I'm forced to put that in D, even though I do play this sometimes. I actually do play this more than August, but it's just not that powerful. It needs to be better. Moving on to the martial lifestyle with Strategist. Strategist itself, did I pass this? Yeah, I did. It gives you 1 diplomacy, 3 martial, and more enemy fatal casualties, and it also gives you the crossing river without penalty, which is something that you can get as a commander trait, but obviously you don't need it if you're going Strategist. Everything in here basically makes you better at leading an army. It makes your army stronger, it makes them move faster, it makes your units have more toughness, it allows you to declare wars cheaper, I'm not going to go through each of these individually, just because everything here you can kind of see leads itself to making you a better military leader. Again, this is kind of a situational one. Not one of the strongest ones, in my opinion, but quite good in the early game if you're going to be going to war a lot. I do enjoy getting this one. I think it's a B tier trait. Pretty powerful for providing you with what you need in the early game to expand your land in rapid succession, especially saving you a lot of prestige cost on your wars, and making your army just better at sieging. Like your archers and your heavy infantry, your pikemen, your skirmishers, these are all going to add siege progress in the early game if you do not have access to siege weapons, which some don't, or if you only have access to like the weakest siege weapons, or if you just don't have many siege weapons built yet. It makes it very powerful. So for that reason, I do think that it's at least decent. In the early game, this is a lot better than it sort of falls off later. Overseer. Overseer's a little bit difficult. I feel like it's decent. The nice thing about this is that you are in the martial tree, but you can end up getting a couple stewardship, so sometimes you can use that to allow yourself to hold on to an extra county, and then you get more control growth. This is another one where I will, if I'm going strategist or if I'm going down the Gallant tree, I'll generally just hang around in this lifestyle, get one more extra click, and then put it in Serve the Crown, having that extra control growth on all your counties, and the passive natural dread is really, really nice. If you have a lot of counties that you need to increase the control in, then you can put another click here in strict organization. But beyond that, I'm just not super big on the rest of this tree. There's a lot of kind of what I just consider dead perks in here. The extra fort level, not a big deal. Controlled territory defender advantage, not a big deal. Cheaper mercenaries, you know, this is kind of useful. Hard rule is nice for preventing your factions from going off, but generally, like, there's just better ways to deal with this. Prepared conscription perk is quite nice. The cheaper army maintenance is really good. The extra levy reinforcement rate is, you know, whatever, it's there. Absolute control is nice. More taxes and levies once you get your counties up to max control, which this tree kind of specializes in. Overall, I'm not too happy to see this. I think it's the weakest of all the martial trees you can go down. If I take over a character and they already have Overseer unlocked, I'm generally going to reset my perks and go either Strategist or Gallant instead, unless I really need that +2 stewardship from the Overseer trait itself to hold on to an additional county. It's just not my preferred tree, but it's not too bad. I do think I prefer it a little bit above August, so I'm going to put it in a high C tier position here. Gallant is fantastic. Gallant is really good. So the Gallant tree itself, or the Gallant trait itself, gives you 2 martial, 4 prowess, 20% more prestige, and 20 attraction opinion. Really, really good. Gets better the later and later into the game that you go because it's a percentage modifier on your prestige. So the more base prestige you're getting, the more that's going to do for you. There's just a ton of really useful things in this tree. The extra prowess is there, but less death and risk of injury when you're commanding your armies or serving as a knight is really, really good. You can challenge your rivals to combat, which, you know, you might not do very often, but at least it's there. So just for the first click, it's already really good. The right side of this tree tends to be a little bit better than the left side, but overall, everything here is pretty good. The 75% knight effectiveness, and then you get extra accolade glory gain if you have accolades available to you. Really powerful. Stacking knight effectiveness is one of the most powerful things you can do in this game in terms of military. Knights are your strongest units by far. And all the knight effectiveness that you can get really contributes to winning battles a lot easier. 5 extra advantage, less friendly fatal casualties, quite good, but not fantastic. Kingsguard, this is really kind of why you're coming down this tree, to get 4 extra knights. Sometimes in the early game you'll have 6 or 5 knights even available, And being able to get this will really boost your military strength up quite a bit. So between Chivalric Dominance and Kingsguard, you're getting some really powerful benefits in this tree. Down the left side, this first one's not very powerful. Romance and Elope, Scheme Cower, whatever. Extra marriage acceptance for yourself and for your close family and extended family is really good for being able to marry up sometimes. If you're like a count, someone's daughter who is a duke, they might not want to marry you because you're kind of like lower than them, but having this will make it so you can like marry a duke's daughter or a king's daughter even sometimes and get a really strong alliance. And then loyalty and respect gives you a lot more opinion from your spouse, which generally you don't need because they're probably going to like you anyways, but sometimes is useful. And then the extra 25% skills from their counselor tasks can be pretty nice. You can sometimes get you like +1 on each if they have decent attributes. So it's pretty good for increasing your attributes overall. Peacemaker is really, really powerful. Sometimes you're just in a position where you can't get that extra 10%. Sometimes this doesn't matter at all, and you just go from like 80 whatever percent all the way up to 100 from sieging down one holding. But sometimes when the war is really close, Peacemaker can make a difference. Peacemaker is very, very strong. You can end the war at 90 instead of 100. Overall, this is just one of the stronger trees in the game, in my opinion. It's pretty versatile too. It provides you with a lot of stuff. It's pretty easy to put this one in S tier. I don't think it's the absolute best, but very strong overall. Moving on into stewardship with the Avaricious tree here. Avaricious giving you 2 stewardship and 15% more taxes from your holdings. This tree is pretty good. It's not my preferred tree. I'll generally go down Architect most of the time when I'm in stewardship. But again, sometimes I will hang around after finishing Architect and at least put 1 point into golden obligations. Getting more gold from ransoming and then also being able to demand gold as payment from hooks is a really powerful benefit. Everything in here is pretty consistent. It's a pretty well-made tree. It gives you more gold. More gold from your vassal taxes, more gold when you're at war. Both of these decisions are pretty nice if you're willing to take on some negative side effects to get more gold. Then you can just use these decisions on cooldown to get more gold. More gold when you're stressed, cheaper men-at-arms. Everything here just kind of like lends itself to you making more gold. I don't think I have to go through it much more than that. It's a pretty powerful tree, but not like an elite one. I think it's A. I don't think I could ever put this in S. Maybe like a high B, low A tier trait, but it's pretty good overall. Actually, I'm going to put it above Diplomat. I do think it is a little bit stronger than that. But yeah, it's hard to complain about Avaricious. It does what it's intended to do, and it does it pretty well. It gives you more gold. Architect is amazing. We all know Architect. If you've played as this at all, you know that it's very, very strong. So the trait itself gives you faster and cheaper construction costs and 2 stewardship. The tree itself, more collect taxes effectiveness. I'm not usually on collect taxes, but this is still decent. You can purchase truces when you're down this tree. You get more garrison size, more fort level. It's not too strong. More levy reinforcement. Again, not that strong, but this isn't really what's great about it. What's great about it is this. Cheaper construction cost for all buildings, faster buildings, and then development growth in your capital. This is really, really strong. When you're in the early game and you're trying to build up your buildings, being able to make them for cheaper and make them faster is really, really good. So when you're developing your land, this is pretty much the best thing that you can be in. 50 popular opinion. Popular opinion is not super important, but sometimes these revolts are just like kind of annoying, so having that extra popular opinion can be nice. It can cancel out some negative effects you get from just like random events. But like the bulk of why this tree is so good is the +2 domain limit. If we're being honest, this should probably be nerfed down to 1, but as long as they don't do that, I'm not going to complain, because I'm sure that we've all gone down this tree before. It is ridiculously powerful to hold +2 domain, and then sometimes getting the 2 stewardship from Architect can also get you like another domain if you were just below a level that you needed. So you know, being able to hold more holdings, in this case 2, is just ridiculously powerful. It makes you, the more domain that you can hold directly, it makes you so much stronger of a ruler. This is such an easy S tier. It's even better than Gallant in my opinion. Not really much else to say about that. It's just amazing. I always, almost always when I'm in stewardship, go down architect tree. Administrator is the weakest of these trees, but still not useless overall. It does give you pretty nice benefit. It's probably the best of the 3 in terms of just these traits. The tree itself is weaker though. But 1 diplomacy, 3 stewardship, 5 opinion from all your vassals, and then 10 more opinion from your parochial vassals is quite nice. Some of the stuff here just feels kind of wasted. You get the claim throne scheme, which can be useful, but if you're already a top level ruler, an independent ruler, then there's nothing that you can claim, so it's just kind of wasted. Domestic affairs, efficiency, learn language, scheme power, this is a fine benefit. Direct vassal opinion and liege opinion. Again, if you don't have a liege, then you're kind of wasting points here. A lot of the times your counselors and your vassals are already going to like you enough anyway that getting points in this just doesn't matter too much. The vassal levy contribution is nice, but levies are the weakest part of your military, so if you're thinking that this just gives you like 20% more army, it's a lot worse than that. It's not such a big deal. If you're playing such a tyrannical ruler, you're generally not going to be in this lifestyle anyway. In stewardship, you're probably going to be in intrigue or something like that. So this just kind of doesn't really make sense that it's here. But in the event that you did accrue some tyranny and you need to get rid of it, then I guess you can come down here. Total line is also very good. Vassals being less likely to join your independence factions. Keep in mind that this is independence factions and not all the other types of factions, so even then it's not really as good as it feels. Honor to serve is quite nice. But keep in mind that this only applies to powerful vassals that are counselors. They have to be both a powerful vassal and a counselor for you to get this benefit. But 20% more taxes and levies, again, levies not being super important, is just, it makes this tree kind of like situational. There's sometimes I will go down this tree, but in general I feel like your perks would just be better spent getting architect. It's too much better in my opinion to really justify administrator. With that said, administrator is not too bad. I do think that it's like solidly a B tier, but it could do with some changes. I think if any of the trees in stewardship need to be reworked, I do think that it's administrator a little bit. Moving on into intrigue, we have the schemer, which gives a really powerful benefit by itself, +5 intrigue and 25% more hostile scheme power. If you are someone who loves the intrigue lifestyle, you probably love this tree, because it allows you to do everything better, it allows you to do everything more. You can abduct, you can find secrets faster, you can disrupt schemes better, you can fabricate hooks. There's less chance that other people will be able to scheme against you or your courtiers. You get an extra max hostile scheme, so you can murder 2 people at a time or whatever you're trying to do. And then more hostile scheme success chance, more murder scheme power, so you can murder faster and at a better success rate. There's really not much to say about this. It just kind of depends what you're trying to do with it. If you're trying to do these hostile schemes, then this is one of the best, and if you're not, then it's kind of just useless. So in that, it's very situational. It's kind of similar to August for me. I don't play this very often. If you do, then you'll love this. I'm just going to put it down here because it's not something that I get a lot of use out of. With that said, it does have its uses, and I do grab Schemer sometimes. Seducer is really bad, if we're being honest. Probably the worst in the game, in my opinion. I think this is probably the tree that I've played the least. It just doesn't matter at all. Like, I don't really know. I don't really get it. Unless you're trying to like seduce a whole bunch of different people and get a whole bunch of different lovers. One of the things that you could do is, like, if there is like a female ruler, a king or an empress, a queen I should say, or an empress, you can seduce them and like have a bastard child with them. and then maybe like take over their kingdom that way. But really, like, the use applications for this is pretty limited. So you get extra attraction opinion, a lot of it, more fertility and some intrigue. But if you're trying to get intrigue, you'd just be better off going into schemer almost always, I think. This tree is just kind of like useless. I don't know. It seems like it would be fun to play around with, but even when you're doing it, it doesn't seem very useful. This is the worst in the game, in my opinion. Torturer. Torturer is pretty good. Probably the strongest of the intrigue lifestyle trees. Dark Insights and Divine Retribution kind of go hand in hand together. Gaining intrigue and prowess. You know, this is 10 stats overall, but prowess is not super useful all the time, unless you're leading your character, or you're bringing your character into war, or like dueling or whatever, I guess. And intrigue is probably the least useful of all the traits, just in my opinion. But with that said, for 1 point you can get 10 overall. It just takes some time to do it, because this is not a 50% chance to gain one or the other. Excuse me, it's not like a 100% chance to gain them and you get one or the other. It's a 50% chance overall. So like sometimes you're going to torture someone and then not even get either of these benefits. So on average, it's going to take 20 different torture sessions in order to get the full benefit of this. And you're going to want to pick up Divine Retribution before you start torturing. Otherwise, you're going to lose like 100 piety or whatever it is for torturing. And it also allows you to avoid the piety or clergy opinion penalty from executing as well, so it's kind of useful in that regard. Extra dread gain is kind of whatever. Thriving in Chaos, again, you get 10 benefit between martial and prowess this time instead of intrigue and prowess. But like the downside is that you have to be stressed here. So if you take your first stress break, you get 10. If you take your second, you get 20. But it's not in the most useful traits, or excuse me, stats. And if you're like in your second stress level, then you're going to be taking like a health penalty anyway to get this. So it's really just kind of like counterintuitive in a way. But you know, it's okay overall. Dread gain per tyranny. If you're doing tyrannical things, it gives you dread while you're doing it. That's at least decent. Most of your vassals will be intimidated or terrified of you when you go down this tree, especially. So you're going to be getting more tax and levy contribution for them, which is good. Once we start getting down here, this is like the nice stuff. So it allows you to enable murder feasts as long as you got the proper DLC for it, and then it gives you minus 1000% dread decay, which is just their way of saying your dread won't decay anymore. So once you get up to max dread, it just sticks forever. But the extra imprison chance is really nice. A lot of times when someone has slighted you and you try to imprison them, they're not even willing to accept it because you have a negative opinion of them and they have a negative opinion of you, so they don't want to go into your prison, obviously. This just makes it a lot more likely when you're trying to imprison characters. And then the torturer trait itself is a pretty nice, 10% levy. It gives you some prowess, more dread gain to help your dread get up quicker, and then your hostile scheme resistance. Not super powerful overall, but still a pretty decent one. I'm going to put this above Schemer in B. I find that I spend less time in Intrigue overall than the others. I do think that it is the strongest. Intrigue is just a little bit more situational. I think that Torture is a little bit more solid overall in terms of gameplay. But I'm never really that excited to go into any of the Intrigue trees. That's why I kind of have them ranked kind of lower here. I hope that they do get reworked at some point in the future too, especially the Seducer tree needs some love. But we're getting into the final three here, and that is the learning lifestyles with Whole of Body, which gives you more fertility, less stress gain, and it gives you a health benefit, a pretty good health benefit. This tree is great. Cheaper court physician, higher cost, better treatment success chance. This is a really good click. I'm sure that plenty of you have gone down the middle part of this tree, realizing that Know Thyself can be very, very useful. And so is the Embrace Celibacy decision that comes from Restraint. It allows you to stop having kids whenever you want, and it gives you a warning before you die. I don't always click through the rest of the tree, but I generally, on most of my characters, try to at least do these 3 clicks. If you're having a really hard time with stress, going down the left side of the tree gives you less stress gain and gives you more time between your mental breaks. And then the right side of the tree prevents your courtiers from getting sick and gives you a nice boost to disease resistance, which is decent. And then by the time you get to the bottom 2, you get these health boosts from healthy and whole of body, which are really strong. I'm sure we've all seen characters, the AI playing characters that get whole of body, and their character will just live so unnaturally long. These health benefits are really, really, really strong. They counteract a lot of the negative penalties that you can get to your health in the game. And if your main goal is to live long on your character for whatever reason, you need to not die, then this is like the way to do that. This is a really, really powerful tree. It does what it's trying to do very well. I think that this is an A tier lifestyle to go into. Moving on to Scholar. Scholar is fantastic. I'm sure everyone that has played this has realized that. So the Scholar trait itself gives 5 learning, which is a lot. Gives you more development growth, and then gives you hostile and personal scheme success chance. So it gives you just like a really good mix of benefits. If you're the culture head, then having scientific is pretty much necessary. 35% more fascination progress as the culture head is really, really good. Increased development in counties, obviously very strong. 2 learning per level of devotion. This gives you more learning on whatever character. Pedagogy. I love getting this before I'm raising my heir. I try to always put my point into this before I start to raise him. Just very strong. Every single time they have a birthday, there is just a 20% chance that they're going to get an extra skill point and a 20% chance that they're going to become friends with you. So if you're tutoring them from 6 to 16, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to increase their attributes a couple times at least and become friends with them potentially. Open-minded is one of the strongest clicks in the game. The cultural acceptance gain and the different culture opinion. So by the time you are a king or an emperor, the likelihood that you're going to have a lot of different cultures in your realm is quite high, and plus 15 opinion from all those different cultures is really, really strong. If you're playing in a region with different faiths as well, this will make different faiths like you quite a bit more. So it's also good in that regard, but a lot less strong than open-minded. And then learn on the job, especially in the late game, once your counselors are going to have like 20, 30, sometimes even 40 of their primary attribute. Getting 20% of their skill is really, really strong. This is unbelievable, honestly. And then the buy claim interaction is incredibly useful. It allows you to spend piety to buy a claim on a duchy. So you can declare wars for duchies just by going down this. Very, very powerful overall. It's difficult, honestly, for me to say between Architect and Scholar, which is better. They're both very strong. I think that I prefer Scholar marginally, but for me these are the 2 best. And then Gallant is also useful. You could debate that it's not quite on the same level as these other 2, but I feel very comfortable putting all of these up in S tier. These are such strong trees, all very, very good, all very worth your time to go down into. The final one is Theologian. Not the best, honestly. There's some usefulness to it. One of the things that you're always going to do, or not always going to do, but if you're going to reform your faith, then you're going to want to do it with this, because it makes it a lot cheaper to do. So you're going to want to come down here and get Prophet, and even then you might not go all the way down to get the Theologian trait, which gives you 20% more piety and 3 learning. So it's a pretty decent perk by itself, but going down this tree is just a lot of the times not worth it. Your Realm Priest is going to like you. It's very easy to get your Realm Priest to like you. You can just sway him, or you can send him a gift. You don't need to waste time getting a perk just to do that. You know, plus 10 Clergy Opinion is okay. Zealot Vassal Opinion is okay. If you've just taken over a whole bunch of hostile faith land and you need to convert it, then obviously getting Zealous Proselytizer and Religious Icon are both worthwhile, but a lot of the times, like even if you're converting a lot of counties, I would rather just go down Scholar and then take a little bit longer to convert those counties than I would rather go down Theologian. It's just not worth it overall, in my opinion. Defender of the Faith, it gives you some different benefits depending on what your faith is, righteous, pluralistic, or fundamentalist, and some of these are pretty decent. The Diplomacy per level of devotion, I think I like the best here, the pluralist one. But overall, it's too much worse than Scholar and Whole of Body to really justify putting your perks into this tree. So with that in mind, I'm never really that into it. I'm not going to put it below Seducer, but I do think that it's like down there with it. It certainly does have its use applications, especially if you're planning on reforming your faith, which I don't generally do, but some players really like to do. But overall, yeah, I feel like it's one of the worst trees in the game, and it's one that kind of needs an update a little bit. But with that, I am done ranking these. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. If you agree with me, please leave a thumbs up. If you hate my list, then please leave a thumbs down. I'm cool with that. If you want to make your own, I'll leave a link to this in the description. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I'm going to be coming out with another tier list probably after the new DLC comes out. I was thinking about doing a DLC tier list, just to rank really like which is worth getting and which is not, once I have some time to evaluate the Persia DLC. But thank you for watching this. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.